If you live near an oak tree that drops acorns, you have an abundant source of food near you. Yes, you can eat acorns once they're processed properly, and you should eat acorns because they're superfood. Today, I'm going to show you the fastest and easiest way to process acorns into delicious edible flour. First, we need to get our dried acorns and crack them open. I'll show you the best ways to collect and dry acorns and which ones not to use in another video. You can use freshly collected acorns, but dried acorns are much easier to crack. However, if you really can't wait for them to dry, then use your fresh acorns. It's better to try it while you're inspired to than to forget to try it at all. The cheapest and best way to crack acorns if you don't have a Dave-built nut cracker is the good old-fashioned way, with a rock. It's best to get a rough rock so that the acorn doesn't slip out. Find a rock that is easy to grip and is a comfortable weight for you, but make sure it is heavy enough to crack the acorn. You can also line up acorns on a towel and put a 2x4 across the line of acorns, then stomp on the board to crack many at a time. You can experiment for yourself to find the best ways to crack your acorns. If you have a Dave-built nutcracker, this will get the job done quicker. These crack 50 pounds of dry nuts per hour. These will not crack fresh, non-dried acorns. You must crack those by hand with rocks or hammers. If you want to get on the wait list to buy a Dave-built, I have a link to their website in the description. Now that your acorns are cracked, you're going to sort the nut meat from the shells. You want to make sure that you get as much of the skin on the nut meat off as possible. This is called the testa. This is because the testa contains lots of bitter tannins. It is easier to get this off of some species of acorn more than others. If you can't get it all, it's fine. The tannins will still come out in the next step. Before this acorn meat becomes edible, we have to get the bitterness out of them. The bitter compound in acorns is called tannic acid, or tannins. The process by which we get the tannins out by washing them out with water is called leaching. Now here's where the magic happens. Once you have your shelled acorn meat, you'll want to soak it for at least a few hours or overnight in the refrigerator to soften the hard nut meat and make it easier to blend. After it is soaked, put the acorn meat in a blender with new cold or room temperature water. You want to make sure not to heat the unleached acorn meat too much because that can bake in the tannins and affect the texture of the finished product. You can use any blender, and I will use a regular $40 blender for the purposes of this video to show you that you don't need fancy equipment to do this at home. However, a Vitamix is ideal if you have one because it will get the acorn meal ground up super fine, super fast. Blend your acorns in water until they get super fine, almost like muddy silt by a river. If you don't have a Vitamix, you'll need to blend this for longer than you think, like 5 minutes total or more. If your blender needs to rest in that time, that's fine. If you have a Vitamix, it may only take 30 seconds to reach the right consistency. Now you're going to pour this water mixture through an unbleached flannel cloth lining a container that has uniform depth, such as a food-grade bucket or a Tupperware with holes drilled in the bottom to let the water drain. Once the water is drained, you're going to pour more water over the acorn mush and let that drain. The water will become clearer and the acorn mush less bitter each time you do this. Taste your acorn mush. If it's still bitter, pour more water through. If it doesn't taste bitter, it is ready. There may be a bit of an astringent flavor you won't be able to get out depending on the acorn species, and that is fine. You won't be able to taste it in the finished product. Some acorn species need many passes of water to finish the leaching process, and some do not, so the taste test is important. The acorn meal may taste bland at this point, but trust me, it is not going to taste bland once it's cooked or baked. You'll get a very rich, nutty flavor from your acorn flour that will make all this effort worth it. At this point, you can either use it wet or dry your flour in a dehydrator or oven at the lowest temperature possible. Drying at a low temperature is best to preserve the nutritional integrity of this superfood. If you dehydrate your flour, it will form clumps of flour when it's done, so you'll have to pulse it one more time in your blender or food processor to return it to the consistency of flour. As for long-term storage, it's best to keep in the refrigerator or freezer, but some people simply store their dehydrated flour in a glass jar with a lid at room temperature, and it stays fresh for a couple of years. Different oak species have different flavor profiles, different textures, and different tannin levels in their acorns. Acorns come in many shapes and sizes and are found almost everywhere in the world. Play around with your local species and let me know in the comments how it went for you. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more videos about acorns. Check out the description below for some links to some good acorn books, tools, and resources. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best with your acorn processing. Remember, food is everywhere if you know where to look.